threatened to kill her right next to her. Please don't. I'm not mad at you. Mad at me? You shouldn't. Once again, Keith Anderson is oblivious to actually what's happening in that car. I'm sorry. All right? So where are you? I just told you. Are you on the hard road, dog? Go left at the end, all right? Okay, so we went left. Where are you? That's when Keith tells her to get out. Keith, unsent message, unsent message. No idea. No idea what he said. This little girl that you've seen, phone activity, phone activity, phone activity, phone activity, phone activity. I won't ever post another social media post. I won't ever be on TikTok again. Won't make a phone call to anybody else.
Thanks so much for being with us on this Friday morning. We have to hit a break. We'll see you in just 4 minutes.
even laundry. Join thousands of Americans and book your first cleaning today for just $19.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rowlands. Good to be with you. We are tracking several major trials on this Friday morning here at Court TV in New Jersey. The fate of Paul Caneiro now in the hands of a jury. He faces life in prison and found guilty of killing his brother and his brother's family, then burning their house down. They've been at it less than 3 hours. Already had a question, an odd one. We'll keep you posted on any action in that New Jersey courtroom. In Florida, closing arguments underway this morning in the trial for a man accused of killing a 14-year-old girl who allegedly refused his advances. The Gearhart trial will be going into that. In Michigan, day 2 of testimony is about to get underway for a husband accused of murdering his wife and hiding her body in a fertilizer tank. The Warner case will be monitoring that as well. Plus, we're standing by later this hour. The old pair gets sentenced. Juliana Magalis is going to find out her fate, all part of the double murder plot to kill her lover's wife and another man. Is she just gonna be sent back to Brazil? We'll find out. We'll take you into the courtroom as soon as that begins. 11:30, so, you know, those start sometimes a little late, but we'll wait. While we wait, let's start the hour with an update in Arizona, where we're continuing to follow the latest developments in the search for Nancy Guthrie. We're getting to the 2-week point, nearly 2 weeks now. The 84-year-old has been missing. The FBI is unveiling a couple new details about the man on her porch the night that she vanished. The FBI has released information to try to really hone in for the public who they're looking for in terms of a suspect. They believe it is a man. There's been speculation. Was it a woman? No. The FBI believes it's a man, approximately 5'9" to 5'10", average build. That's the person in this video. He's wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack, and you can get those at Walmart. That's the retailer. So hoping someone's going to know that their relative and or friend has that backpack and fits this description. They released the images of the backpack. Here's a closer look. The reward number now has gone from $50,000 to $100,000. So yesterday we heard this guy who contacted TMZ looking for a Bitcoin, saying, I know who did it, and I'll tell you who did it for 1 Bitcoin. Well, that's worth about $65,000. This reward now is up to $100,000. So that individual could make a lot more money if he would just come forward to the FBI. We'll see what happens there. Let's bring our guest in for the hour. He's in Santa Fe, New Mexico, criminal defense attorney John Day. John, good to see you. Happy Friday to you. This case, it's a heartbreaker. The whole Southwest and the whole country is absolutely glued, waking up every day. Did they find Nancy? I mean, we all are looking for updates. We're getting little dribbles, but not the big one, not the they've solved this. What's your overall take on how this investigation's going, how it maybe changed with the video that came out? Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's excruciating. I'm right next door to Arizona and New Mexico and Santa Fe, and we have the billboards with Nancy's picture on them and the reward and the FBI phone number, because we are geographically close to Tucson. I mean, it's not right next door, but the other states, the surrounding states, are seeing the same thing, just in case there's some local Southwest connection, in case somebody here has some information. But it's heartbreaking to drive through these towns and see her face on the billboard. You can just, and your heart goes out to the family. As a prosecutor, I worked on some cases that were similar, and it's just, these moments, these minutes are just so painful. You think that with this technological advance, with the ability to recapture some of the video from the doorbell camera, kind of spectacular to know that the Google engineers can do that, but we're still waiting. It's a long time, and it just seems like things are happening not at all, or if so slowly, and it's just really hard to watch.
Yeah, especially factoring in her age and her medical condition, where each day that passes, you're hoping and praying that she's still okay and still alive. But the grim reality now, nearing the 2-week mark, is that the clock is ticking. Couple things I want to talk about in terms of developments. You had this video that TMZ came across that is being analyzed, according to TMZ, by the FBI. It's 5 miles away, about 19 minutes before the Ring camera is pulled off. This individual has 2 backpacks. One is similar, but I don't think it's a match to the Walmart backpack. It's conceivable that this individual, if working in concert with someone else, could be connected. So far, we haven't seen the identity, but 5 miles away, it would take 19 minutes he would have 19 minutes, this individual, if involved, to change clothes if he's the guy in the mask and drive the 19 miles. It's not out of the realm of possibility. These tips, these little things, and this could be nothing. But John, this is the kind of thing that could break the case.
Right. What do we see when we look at this video? We see with 2 different videos. What's common? There are backpacks. They're full backpacks. They look like new backpacks. These are not backpacks that have been worn down through work or through travel or anything like that. The clothing looks unscathed. The clothing looks new. The backpacks look full. What is it that's happening at night with full backpacks? I mean, are they connected? Obviously, we don't know. But in my mind, I'm thinking, what's the significance, if any, of people wearing what looks like new clothing and new, completely full backpacks at night in the same general geographical area? Is there some kind of connection? Who knows? But it does raise my curiosity. Anytime you're out at night with a full backpack and maybe 2 backpacks, and they're both brand new looking, according to the video, that is suspicious.
Yeah, and what this individual who was outside of Nancy's door has that full backpack, what was it used, what was in there? And then you have to think through what was their plan. It seems very organized. There's another development where the FBI is looking for specific surveillance video or neighbor ring cameras, basically. Anyone, and it's more than 2 weeks before the abduction. That seems to be probably multiple neighbors saying there was a suspicious vehicle in the area, because it's the window's very tight. It's between these hours and this hour, January 11th. Your thoughts on that and where the generation of that might have come from, and why they're looking for such specific video from a window?
Well, because their law enforcement mind goes to what's the planning, is there some kind of casing of the area? If so, you're going to see a repetitive action. You're going to see maybe similar cars driving by. You're going to see cars driving by slowly, stopping to take some kind of a view. Are these people who don't belong in the neighborhood? They're trying to crowdsource, and that's the advantage of all these security cameras now. The law enforcement gets to crowdsource their investigation. You basically get an entire neighborhood network that theoretically has video of the people involved in this at some point. So that's why they're spreading this wide net, trying to get all the neighbors to say, to produce their cameras so that law enforcement can say, we were able to see this area, we're able to see the neighborhood, and we can go back in time and see, are there cars or their cell phones that repeat in that location. So it's it's technology is catching up, but it is astonishing at this point with the resources of the U.S. government and law enforcement that we are still at this place, although there could be a break any day.
Yeah, any moment, really. Because while it's been 2 weeks, it's only been a few days since they were able to recover the video from the Ring camera, and that's a game changer. It gives you a timestamp, and it gives you a general description. Gloves. According to the FBI, multiple sets of gloves have been sent off for testing. Well, those gloves were probably picked up, probably irrelevant. Then they see the video, okay, black gloves, let's test them. So to your point, yeah, anything can come back at any time. Another development is this Ransom notey thing that TMZ has gotten now 2 messages from someone saying, I know who did it. If you give me a Bitcoin, I'll tell you. And I can't get a hold of the family. I've tried and they won't respond to me. Here's Harvey Levin talking about another note that he got, an email from this same individual, and then we'll talk about it.
This morning, just after 8 a.m. Pacific time, he sent us this other email complaining that he is not being taken seriously. He says that he wants the Bitcoin, which is worth around $67,000, for several reasons. Number one, he says by coming forward, he will become a, as he puts it, a national rat. He also says, and this is a quote, he doesn't want to be, quote, incriminated like that guy Carlos.
Carlos, of course, the person who was pulled over and let go. Any validity to this, the guy that wants the Bitcoin? I mean, now with the $100,000 reward, he's going to make a lot more money if he just tells the FBI. It's not like he has to go in front of the cameras. He can stay anonymous, correct?
Yeah, you know, and again, this highlights the dilemma that we're seeing. Is this real? Is this someone who's taken advantage of this? Is this someone who's trying to manipulate an incredibly tragic situation? If you discount it and it turns out to be real, you've made a huge mistake. On the other hand, if you believe that this person is telling the truth and so has some connection, and you go down that route, you know, what are you out? I mean, is it worth the money? You know, that's certainly a decision for family and law enforcement, but this just highlights the dilemma of what we're seeing all of a sudden, which is this kidnapping for, you know, cryptocurrency, which takes us to a whole different level. And you have to wonder, is law enforcement prepared for this, or is this the sign of something we're going to see, sadly, a lot more of in the future?
That's a great point. It's not, or, you know, leave a suitcase in the parking lot of a motel at midnight and don't bring the cops. You know, that sort of model doesn't work anymore, but this is scary. Bottom line here, we'll leave it because these are the updates that we have at this point. As far as Savannah, she released the video on Instagram yesterday, and it's just a heartbreaker. It's just her mom, home video of her mom and the kids, and it brings it back home to the pain that this family's going through, the unanswered, and, you know, abductions, missing children. This is a thing that, these are the hardest cases, I would assume, for prosecutors and law enforcement, not knowing what has happened, and most importantly, for family. There she is. There's Mom Nancy. So, John, do you, at the end of the day, given the attention, given the resources, are we going to find out what happened to Nancy, one way or another, eventually?
You know, we will, and that's why this is, you know, the heartbreak just continues, because is there a chance that there'll be some miraculous ending and she'll be found safe and sound? I mean, of course, and that's what you have to hope for, and that's what the family's hoping and praying for. We all know that there's certainly a chance also that this will end in a different way, but at the same time, it's heightened the fact that people are focused on this, people are coming together on it, people understand what this is doing to this family. Everybody can relate having an elderly mother if you've been around that. So there's sort of a universal theme here, but at the same time, there's somebody out there who knows what happened. There's somebody out there who knows what's going on. That may be where the break comes from. This is not the kind of thing that can be kept secret and silent forever. So sooner or later, there'll be a resolution, and we all hope that it's very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth Smart to me always was a case that I'd covered it, and I thought, oh, they're never going to find her, or she's dead. And boy, months later, she was alive and well and is living a fantastic life. So you just never know, and you got to keep that hope alive. John, stand by. We're going to get a break. And again, any updates on the search for Nancy Guthrie, we'll pass them along to you throughout the day here. Coming up, we're going to head to Virginia and get ready for this. The former au pair, Juliana Magalhaes, we watched her take the stand. Today is her reckoning day. She helped put her lover away for life with her testimony and her cooperation. What does she get in return? A one-way ticket back to Brazil, or does she have to do more time? We'll find out. Stay with us.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee.
Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
They're coming to her and asking her if she'll testify against my client. because that's what they wanted from the beginning. She was a pawn in trying to get to my client.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Good to be with you on this Friday as we round out a busy week. The Caneiro jury at 3 hours plus in their deliberations. They've already had a question, wanted to see some video. We'll monitor what happens up in that New Jersey courtroom. But our focus is headed to Virginia right now because in just a few minutes, the au pair, Juliana Maglis, is going to be sentenced for her part in that double murder plot to kill her lover's wife and another man. The Brazilian nanny took a plea deal in exchange for her testimony against this guy, Brendan Banfield, who went down in flames. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. She says that, yes, she conspired with Brendan to kill his wife, Christine, and another man, Joseph Ryan, but said it was basically Brendan was running the operation. She was just along for the ride, in love with the married man. Prosecutors agreed to recommending time served, meaning today she walks free and heads back to Sao Paulo, Brazil, where she grew up. So we're gonna spend the next few minutes reminding everybody of where we were in this case, and let's start with taking a look back at her on the witness stand. What do you believe? What do you not believe in terms of her role? And did she embellish a bit about her role? Let's go back and listen to a bit of the back and forth when she was on direct during Brendan's murder trial.
When you got to the main level, did you or Brendan lock the door at the top of the basement stairs?
I do not recall doing that.
And what, if anything, did you do next?
When I got to the main floor, Brendan was standing at the bottom of the stairs that lead us upstairs. And he was just listening, then he gestured to me like for me to wait, just listen to the sound. And the sound was like slapping. That's when you're slapping somebody, that's the sound we could hear.
And what, if anything, happened after that?
I think we were listening to that sound for a few seconds, and he took his gun out. And because I also had the gun with me, I just did the same. And he proceeded to go upstairs, and I just followed him upstairs to the master bedroom.
Who opened the bedroom door?
Brendan.
Did you go inside the bedroom?
Yes.
And what did you see when you went inside the bedroom?
When we first get into the bedroom, I could see that the bed we have in the master bedroom was kind of tall. And so from my point of view, all I could see was like Joe. At the moment I knew it was Joe, like on top of Christine, in a way I would only describe holding her down. And that was my first view as soon as I get into the bedroom.
Were you able to were you able to see Christine at all at that point?
At that point, no.
Did anyone say anything when the two of you went into the bedroom?
Yeah, when I got to the bedroom, Brendan said, he yelled, "Police officer," and Christine's first reaction, that was the first time I heard she say anything at that point. Then she yelled back at Brendan, saying, "Brendan, he has a knife." And yeah, that's when Brendan first shot Joe.
Did you see Joe before he was shot?
Yeah.
What did he look like when he saw Brendan?
Shocked.
And could you see Christine?
Yes.
What did you see Brendan do next?
When I was bringing him the towel, he got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stabbing her with a knife.
Where in her body was he stabbing her?
Her neck.
And were you able to see whether or not he stabbed her one time or more than one time?
When I first saw that happening, I ran to the other side of the bed, and I was just crouching down on myself and covering my ears and covering my eyes, and a few times I looked, and I was able to see him stabbing her, and he would stab, and other times he would hold the knife in a position how that was.
You said he was holding the knife in a position?
Yeah.
How was he holding it?
This position, I think when the way he stabbed, he was just kind of like holding it, putting pressure on it.
And was he just holding onto the knife at that point, or was he still stabbing her?
I was holding onto the knife.
Did you stab Christine at all?
I did not.
Did you touch Christine at all at this point?
No.
Did you get any blood on you?
I did.
And how did you get blood on you?
The blood on my hands, I remember, because at some point when he was stabbing her, I was kneeling, like, she was here, and Brenna was like stabbing her, and I came closer, and it was right here, and I knelt on the carpet, and I had put my hands on the carpet, and as soon as I felt the blood, I just removed my hands from the carpet.
Why? What did the blood feel like?
It was warm.
The au pair. She made the difference. You know, after this trial was over, the prosecution was asked, could you have still prosecuted and won this case without the au pair? And they, of course, said yes. The blood evidence was enough to get a conviction. I'm not so sure of that. She gave them details that they never would have been able to spin into the story that were very compelling against Brendan Banfield. So now, what do you do with her? Her max is 10 years with this plea deal. She's done 3.5. Is that enough? A lot of you don't think so. Let's bring in John Day, criminal defense attorney, but also former prosecutor. Sometimes you have to make a deal with the devil or a nanny. What's your take on, did they need her, and then what do you do with her now?
Yeah, well, that expression is right. It's an old prosecutorial expression. If you're trying the devil, sometimes you need to go to hell for the witnesses. Is she a criminal mastermind? No. Does the jury see her as having been rehearsed with her testimony on the stand? Yes. But at the same time, I believe they needed her. I believe that this sealed the deal in the sense that she is, even though it's stilted, even though, she's obviously practiced this a few times, they need her to establish beyond a reasonable doubt. And she gets a deal. The jury knows that she's getting a deal. The jury knows that she's benefiting from this. But at the same time, just because you have a deal, just because you're benefiting, doesn't mean that what you're saying is not truthful. So she comes across, obviously, as practiced, but I believe it was a key brick in the wall here, and that they definitely needed to make the deal with her.
And her testimony was, yeah, to your point, it was believable. It was sugar-coated. I mean, she kept saying, well, it was all Brendan, it was this, and almost like she was an unwilling participant, when in reality, you know, she was like, I'm going to take over. And she did. She took over the bedroom. She took over the house. It's not like after the murders, she went to police because it was weighing on her conscience. She dove in and played house with Brendan. Let's listen to her attorney, Steve Gastione, saying this is not a sweetheart deal. Here's what he said.
It's really, really important that, you know, we don't characterize this as a quote-unquote sweetheart deal. This is the work of being a prosecutor. She still is taking accountability for homicides. When you take a look at what the relative culpability is, I think that where we have landed is appropriate. And quite frankly, Juliana, by testifying, answered a lot of questions, not only for us, but for the jury. Let's not forget how important her testimony may have been to some of those jurors. So her still facing up to 10 years in prison is very, very significant and well worth the cost to make sure that Brendan Banfield was convicted for a crime where it is a mandatory life sentence. As the law is written right now, Brendan Banfield will not walk free for the rest of his natural life.
That was a prosecutor for the Commonwealth, obviously. They're explaining his standpoint. And that's kind of what you were just said, John, is that, yeah, you know, you have to hedge your bet. And to do that, to win, because if you factor in Brendan Banfield, and as a society, this is one of the scarier criminals we've had go through the system, because he's an FBI, an IRS investigator. He's got a standing in the community, and he's a diabolical individual that was willing to kill his wife, just besmirch her reputation, and kill this innocent guy. If it's Juliana or Banfield walking the streets, that's a no-brainer, and that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime as a prosecutor, you got to go in front of the cameras and say, this is not a sweetheart deal, it's a sweetheart deal. But it's okay in this case, I think, from the prosecutorial standpoint, because, again, you need, you know, what's the lesser of the two evils? I mean, make a deal with the au pair, get her testimony. The jury can take it for what it's worth, but they do. They're listening to someone who is giving some facts and giving some context they didn't have before. So is the deal distasteful? Do you have to kind of hold your nose and realize she's not getting a whole lot of time? Yeah, but what do you get in return? If you can convince any of those jurors who are even wavering, then you've done a good job as a prosecutor.
Yeah, absolutely. What will happen? Well, we'll find out. The courtroom is open, ready. Our team is there. Our cameras are there. There's a live look inside of the courtroom in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And Juliana Margulies, the au pair, is going to find out her fate in just a matter of minutes. We'll get a break here and then head off to the sentencing of the au pair. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rowlands. Good to be with you on this Friday. We are heading to Virginia now because we're going to witness together the sentencing for Juliana Perez Magalhaes. She was the au pair, that put her lover away. She pled guilty to manslaughter. She's facing a max of 10 years. Her testimony went a long way to put Brendan Banfield in the penitentiary. And now it's time for her to find out her fate. The judge is on the bench. Let's go into the courtroom.
All right, the case of Commonwealth of Virginia versus Juliana Perez Magalhaes. Ms. Perez Magalhaes is present in the courtroom with her attorney. The Commonwealth is present. Comes today for sentencing. Are we ready to go forward today, Mr. Campbell?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, have you reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report with your client?
We did, Your Honor. No changes, additions, or corrections.
All right, does the Commonwealth have any?
No changes, additions, or corrections.
All right, I'll make the pre-sentence investigation report part of the record. The Commonwealth, as far as evidence, I do have victim impact statements that I have already reviewed. Is there any objection to those victim impact statements?
Your Honor, my position, I talked to the Commonwealth, is that some of them fall outside the definition under.
Okay, which ones? Are you objecting to certain ones, or are you not?
Your Honor, the specific ones are the ones that relate to Christine Banfield, so the family members of Christine.
So you object to those victim impact statements?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And Judge, what I would say to that is that certainly the statement of facts that we presented, and that is included in the pre-sentence report, includes information about also the murder of Christine Banfield. I understand that this charge itself reflects the killing and the murder of Joseph Ryan. However, I do think that the voices of Christine Banfield's family are important in this hearing as well.
I understand, but he's only been charged with the murder. I mean, she's only been charged with the murder of Joseph Ryan. So the only victim impact statements the court can consider are the ones based on which the Commonwealth has charged her with. So I can only take into consideration the victim impact statements from Joseph Ryan's family.
Understood, Your
Okay,
Honor.
so I'll do that and I'll grant your motion. Okay? All right, do you have any other evidence?
Judge, I do. In light of the court's ruling, I'm going to have two witnesses to call. The first of which is going to be Deirdre Fisher.
Okay, Deirdre Fisher.
She is appearing via Teams.
All right. Okay, ma'am, if you could just raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law? Yes. Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Fisher.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name for the court?
My name is Deirdre Maureen Fisher.
And can you tell the court your relationship to Joe Ryan?
Joseph Ryan is my son.
And can you tell the court of any psychological injury that you have received resulting from this offense, or any changes to your personal welfare, lifestyle, or relationships resulting from this offense?
Is this outside of the statement that I
No, ma'am.
am going to read?
You go ahead and read your statement.
Oh, so I read it now?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Honorable Judge Penny S. Ascaretti, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the impact of the murder of my son, Joseph Nathan Ryan. My baby boy was born 2 days before Christmas, making that our special holiday. His middle name was Nathan, which means gift. Since Joe's murder, I haven't been able to take down my little Christmas tree, which sits behind the urn with his ashes. I say good morning to him each day when I turn on the tree's lights. But of course, that's not Joe sitting there. He can't say, I love you back. When Joe was taken from me cruelly and callously, murdered by Juliana and Brendan on February 24th, 2023, I lost so very much. more than I can possibly name. I lost my confidant, someone who knew me deeply, listened without judgment, offered advice with my best interests at heart. I lost my biggest ally and my cheerleader. That empathetic voice saying, "Mom, you got this. Mom, you should be kinder to yourself." I lost my rock and protector. The person who flew down repeatedly to take care of me when I had cancer. I lost the comfort of knowing that my son would be there to care for me when I'm an old woman with illness or dementia, just as he cared for his grandmother and grandfather.
All right, this is just the beginning of Joseph Ryan's mother's statement. We're going to get a break and get you back into the courtroom for the remainder of what she has to say to the au pair. Stay with us.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee.
Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Let's head back to Virginia now. The sentencing hearing for Juliana Perez Magalhães. She is the Brazilian au pair who had an affair with her boss, Brendan Banfield, testified against him. Now she'll find out what happens to her. Let's go back into the courtroom, pick up the victim impact statement from Joseph Ryan's mother, Deirdre Fisher.
Grandfather, I lost my financial sustainability due to grief's torturous effect on my health, both physically and mentally, which has affected my ability to work and function. I lost my peace and sense of well-being. I can never unhear Joe's moans and cries after he was shot, the cries of a dying man. I can never unsee the image of his lifeless, bloody hand from the trial images. I lost nearly all my friends who couldn't handle dealing with someone lost in grief or understand why my life can't just go on. I lost the chance to ever be called grandma. I will never have that. I lost the sound of Joe calling me the most beautiful word in the world, Mom. I lost my Christmas baby, Joseph Nathan, my greatest gift. The impact of Joe's loss doesn't go away. Will never go away, but only grow. So many tears, so many times reaching for the phone to call him, only to remember that he won't and can't pick up. So many times hearing the phone ring and wishing it was him, calling me out of the blue about something happening in the world or in his life. So many empty Christmases and so many birthdays without him singing to me in his awful yet beautiful voice, tone deaf. So many moments of trying to remember the exact sound of his laughter and fearing that someday I won't. So many sleepless nights. So many nightmares of his brutal murder and fear, confusion, and of the pain he must have felt. So many screams and guttural cries into my pillow, feeling the loss of my son. So many moments of reading horrible things online, lies told about who Joe wasn't. So many moments defending and explaining who my son was and why he couldn't have committed the murder of Christine Banfield. God rest her soul. So many conversations with others, draining them and me of a chance to make happier memories together. So many stomach aches. So many doctor's appointments, hospital bills, feelings of shame about my health. So many times wishing I could tell Joe about another milestone in my weight loss journey, seeking better health, knowing how encouraging and proud he would be. So many lost moments, so many moments of loss. My son's life was used and thrown away. seen as worthless and utterly disposable. Disposal by those who plotted and executed his brutal murder. Do I think or dare hope that there will be justice for Joe's death? For my loss as his mother? I don't believe that's possible. What I do hope is that, even for a moment, that the world and you, Judge, will say Joe meant more than nothing, that he was someone worthy of dignity and life, who didn't deserve to be used and thrown away, treated as utterly disposable. Thank you for listening and for weighing the trail of pain and loss Juliana left in the wake of her calculated, cold-blooded murder, with her life and future as her only concern. My son, Joseph Nathan Ryan, was not and is not disposable. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Please answer any questions that Mr. Campbell may have.
All right, cross-examination. No cross-examination. Okay, thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you.
All right, your next witness.
Judge, the next.
That woman has lost so much at the hands of, yes, Brendan Banfield may have engineered this, but we heard Juliana Magalish testify that she had a gun in her hand and she delivered what could be the fatal blow to Joseph Ryan when he was still moving after he was shot the first time by Banfield. She says she pulled out her gun and shot him. And now she has to listen as Joseph's mother put in perspective what happened. I mean, they used this guy for their disgusting plot. And as much as the au pairs, whoa, I was, Brendan's idea, you know, when they were typing those notes and they were pretending to be Christine, that they were chuckling and enjoying every moment of it. And we'll find out what happens to her, but probably not enough. And you heard the judge say no, that Christine Banfield's family can't speak. However, the aunt can, and she's next. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins. Going to be with you on this Friday. We are in Virginia this afternoon. Well, we're all over the place today. We have a verdict possibly today at some point because we have a jury that is deliberating in New Jersey, 3 hours, 47 minutes and counting in the Caneiro case. But we're also in Virginia, and that is because we're watching the sentencing of the au pair, Juliana Margulies. You remember her and her part in this double murder. Her and her lover, Brendan Banfield, plotted to kill Brendan's wife, who she worked with, by the way, and knew quite well. And then Joseph Ryan, the other man, the one they lured over under the guise that he was going to have basically a rape fantasy with Christine, and they were there to shoot and kill him in cold blood. Prosecutors have agreed and recommended time served, meaning after 3.5 years in jail, she'll walk. She'll go back to Brazil. But it's up to the judge. She's got to top a ceiling of a max of 10 years. Let's go into the courtroom now. We're hearing from the next speaker, and this individual is in person in the courtroom, face to face with the au pair. It's the victim, Joseph Ryan's aunt.
Sangeeta Ryan.
And can you describe your relationship to Joe Ryan?
Is this where I read my statement? Who I met, Joey Nathan Ryan, was my nephew. And Honorable Judge Ascarati, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you for allowing the Ryan family to speak up for our Joey Nathan Ryan. We thank the jury for helping us achieve justice for Joe and Christine. And we thank the Fairfax County Police Department, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and all that helped, and we're grateful for justice. So our family has remained silent since the devastating loss out of grief, but also out of respect for the justice system. For us, Joe did not just die on February 23rd, 23. He was murdered over and over again, every time lies were spoken, every time his picture was posted alongside salacious stories told by two wolves in sheep's clothing who perpetrated this crime and attempted to destroy the memory of two remarkable people. Julia and her boss/lover intended to snuff out the life of two innocent victims who deserve to live full and meaningful lives of their own. While we acknowledge the defendant for eventually coming forward with the truth, telling the truth doesn't absolve her of responsibility. Honesty is something we're taught at a young age. Telling the truth doesn't erase the harm. It simply allows others to move forward. It doesn't bring Joe back, and it sure doesn't bring Christine back. Hearing the truth has finally allowed us to exhale. It validated to the world what we already knew, that Joe was not the monster he was portrayed to be. Rather, Joe is an elder brother, a brand new uncle, the eldest cousin and confidant to 4. He is my beloved nephew and a son and grandson to his loving family. Pardon me 1 second. We acknowledge that Juliana was a young woman in a foreign country, in love with her employer in a situation where the power imbalance was not in her favor. But where our compassion ends is with the one other responsibility. Juliana was entrusted with and received payment for the care and protection of a small, innocent child. And Juliana, I feel, failed Valerie repeatedly. She was trusted to protect this young charge, but instead chose to cause irreparable damage. She robbed her of her mother. She stole childhood memories. She chose to partner in the brutal assassination of her mother's character, as well as her beautiful being. The defendant and her boss/boyfriend convinced Valerie that a stranger broke into her home and killed her mother, when in fact the monsters were the very people who cared for her after the loss. Julie and her boss worked to erase her mother's existence and credibility and place the blame on an innocent man. Our hearts go out to all of Christine and Valerie's family. What an absolutely incredible person she must have been. But may I tell you about Joe? Joe is loved. Joe came to live with the Ryan family. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Take your time.
Joe came to live with the Ryan family just days after his birth. His birth parents, Dad Sean and Deirdre, who you met, were teenagers, so Joe lived with and was raised by his paternal grandparents, Connie and Jim, for all of his life. As a young child, Joe, who we call Joey, was fun-loving and loved from the beginning. He was inquisitive, curious, smart, charming, and so dang talkative. Joe approached strangers and passerbyers with random and nerdy questions about Transformers and movie characters and the Legend of Zelda video game characters and who would win in a battle between this person, and he respectfully waited the answers, whether you knew them or not. As he grew into adulthood, Joe's hobbies included building or painting anything that used his fine motor skills. He loved martial arts. He had a great love and respect for our environment, animals, especially mistreated, neglected, and ugly dogs. And he rescued many injured and less loved dogs, bringing them across the country in his travels safely home to the home he shared with his grandmother. Joe cared for people, he cared for animals, and Joe didn't hurt people. When Joe's grandfather, Pap, required care due to a debilitating stroke, Joe left his life in Virginia and moved to Florida to serve as the full-time caregiver to his grandfather, the grandfather that supported him from infancy. When Pap developed dementia and had to move into a memory care facility, then Joe moved back to Virginia where he began to take care of his grandmother, who had begun to experience health problems of her own. Joe took over transportation for medical appointments, hospital procedures, food shopping, and the bond between Connie and her grandson was as close as that of a mother and child. Joe would never have put himself in a dangerous situation with his ability to continue to take care of his beloved grandmother or his old ugly dog, Kitty. I'm sorry, she's not ugly. When Joe didn't come home, Joe's grandmother, Connie, lost the gentleman that she and Pap raised as their fourth son. Joe's sudden murder devastated his grandma, who was 81, and devastated her so much she could no longer live in the family home without Joe, and quietly and quickly sold her home to dodge memories, grief, and reporters to move closer to my husband and me. My husband's Joe's Uncle Jimmy, and I'm his Aunt Gita. In Joe's absence, my husband and I made the decision to leave our careers and to take over his grandma's support and care team. We continue to do that today, and we think about and talk about Joe every single day. Honorable Judge Asgarati, we feel Joe and Christine were targeted by the worst kind of monsters, the kind who live among the victims and wait until they're the most vulnerable. We feel as a woman, a caretaker, and as a daughter, Juliana had opportunity to stop this brutal assassination. We think she could have warned Christine. We think she could have warned Joe that morning. This could have been a very different ending where Juliana saved 2 lives. But that's not. At least she should have done the job for which she was being paid to protect a child. She did not. So many opportunities to do the right thing, and Juliana over and over chose not to. And while we acknowledge that she found the strength to tell the truth, it doesn't absolve the responsibility. So today we leave here finally standing as Joe's family. This nightmare's ending. It's our hope that Juliana doesn't walk free, but continues to reflect on how she became capable of doing this, so that when she does return to Brazil, she never victimizes another person, never betrays another child in her care, and never again places selfish desire above human life. She doesn't deserve to profit. We hope that can be enforced. The reality is, though, she will be free one day, and our hope is that she carries the weight of the lives destroyed, that Juliana chooses to live as a decent person, and that she is truly remorseful. The sentence that Juliana receives today is not the only one given. We all carry a life sentence of grief, even after hers ends. We ask for peace. We ask to be allowed to move forward. Today we move forward by returning Joe's kindness to the world. We say his name proudly. We invite the world to finally know the man we protected in silence for so long. He is loved. We miss Joe, and our family is devastated by the way he was ripped from our lives. Joe won't complete painting his unfinished Warhammer 3D figurines. He won't compete in any more live action role playing battles with silly hand-created foam weapons, nor his mixed martial arts or video game battles. He'll no longer bore us with lectures about eating organic food over junk food, but it's with our hearts we thank you, Honorable Judge, and the jury that was here, members of the court, the police, the detective, the prosecution team, the victims team, and all the witnesses who supported justice for Joe. Thank you so much for listening.
Please answer any questions that Mr. Campbell might have.
Any cross-examination?
No questions, Your
All right, no questions. All right, you can
Thank
go
you
back
so
to your seat.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Judge, I don't have any further evidence, but I do want to acknowledge to the court that the family of Christine Banfield is here today. You can see them to your honor's right.
All right, thank you. Thank you,
Along
ma'am.
with Joe's family.
All
Thank you.
right, thank you. All right, Commonwealth's arrest for evidence. For the defense residents, I do have for your evidence the memorandum of support of sentencing, which I have reviewed, in addition 3 letters that you have provided
Yes, Your
as
Honor.
well. I reviewed those as well.
Your Honor, I'm going to hand up a few certificates that Ms. President. They can just be made part of the record there.
Okay. Are
And
these
no
okay
further
to be,
evidence.
can be part of the file, or do you need copies? We can make copies of them if you'd like.
That'd be fine, Your Honor.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
make copies. All right, let me just review them, please.
All right, judge reviewing some certificates in support, I'm sure, of Juliana's time in prison. As she gets ready to make her decision, if you missed it earlier, she agreed with the defense, with Juliana's attorney, that the family of Christine Banfield, who was in the courtroom and was prepared to address the court, doesn't have standing because the au pair, Juliana, was only charged in the death of Joseph Ryan. That's what she pled guilty to in this deal, this manslaughter plea. So they don't have standing to speak. They're not allowed to speak at this sentencing. We all would have loved to have heard what they had to say. Let's bring in our guest for the hour. In San Francisco, California, there he is, Joseph Tully. Happy Friday to you, Joseph. The ruling from the judge was a correct ruling. Correct me if I'm wrong, that unfortunately, the heartbroken family of Christine Banfield can't speak, at least not at this sentencing hearing.
Correct. Yes, it was an interesting move. It is a legally appropriate objection. However, with the emotional kind of controversy over this case, it's highly emotional. These families are true victims. However, the judge had to follow the law and say, look, Juliana, the au pair, is only charged with Joseph Ryan's death, and the family of Christine Banfield doesn't have standing, as you noted. So it was just, it was an interesting move, but the judge made the ruling on the law.
Had to agree to it because of the law, but you wonder what the effect was had they not objected, if it would have helped in any way with the judge's ultimate ruling. We'll find out. Let's get a break. When we come back, both sides, the state and defense, are going to argue in front of the judge, and then she'll make her decision. 10 years is the max. She's done 3.5, so you just let her go back to Brazil. That's what the state's saying they sort of agreed to, but it's up to the judge, not the prosecutor. Stay with us.
A deadly school shooting.
I just started hearing gunshots.
Now, the father of the alleged shooter is on trial.
Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon.
The Gave My Son a Gun murder trial today on Court TV.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Virginia is where we are focusing our attention on this Friday. We're also monitoring New Jersey, where the Caneiro juries now hit the 4-hour mark in their deliberation process. But in Virginia, the au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhaes, who took the stand during Brendan Banfield's trial, is now being sentenced. Her role, after pleading guilty to manslaughter back in 2024. But her role in the shooting death of Joseph Ryan is at stake here. She, of course, was all part of the plan to kill Christine Banfield, too, along with her lover and Christine's husband. But she wasn't charged with that. So Christine's family is there in the courtroom. They wanted a chance to speak. They wanted a chance to share how the au pair has affected their lives, but because she wasn't charged in Christine's death, the judge had no choice to say that they cannot speak at this hearing. They'll be at Brendan's sentencing hearing, you can bet that, but don't get to hear it today. So let's go back into the courtroom and pick up the proceedings. We've heard from the two witnesses the victim impact statements already. Now it's time for both sides to argue in front of the judge what to do with the au pair.
Your Honor, the two witnesses that you heard from today made it clear that hearing the truth was valuable to them, to the Ryan family, and it was the truth that Juliana spoke at trial. And ultimately, it was her testimony that likely resulted in the conviction of Brendan Banfield. Until her cooperation, the Commonwealth had only a theory. They had circumstantial evidence, but no direct evidence. When Juliana finally came forward, she offered that direct evidence of what crimes she'd been involved in and what crimes were committed by Brendan Banfield. Your Honor, our position is that justice requires that the court follow the joint recommendation of the parties. Justice requires it because it was an arm's-length agreement made by an experienced prosecution team with the approval of the head of the office, with the knowledge of all the facts and circumstances of the case, not just the facts of the case, but issues that would be presented at a trial, the presentation of evidence and witnesses, sentencing guidelines, and many other factors that the parties consider beyond what the court might realize. Justice requires it because Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield and their families deserve justice. By accepting responsibility in this case and cooperating, we avoided 2 trials. We assured the finality of the decision in this case, and we gave the jury and the Commonwealth and the court confidence that Brendan Banfield would be convicted, as he ultimately was. Justice requires following the agreement because every individual that makes...
Following the recommendation.
Recommendation, yes, Your Honor. And I addressed that in my memo, of course.
Yes.
Every individual that makes a difficult decision to cooperate does so with the belief that the recommendation would be followed or at least considered by the court. The Commonwealth, the courts, and prosecutors in courts everywhere in the country rely on cooperating witnesses to do what Juliana has done in this case, which is to speak to the truth and offer direct evidence of crimes, including those cooperating witnesses that they themselves have committed serious offenses. When a prosecutor makes a promise, the court ought to give it serious weight. Your Honor, I'll say I'm disappointed but not surprised that the Commonwealth didn't advocate today for the recommendation. I have deep respect for Ms. Bristler and Ms. Sands and the prosecution team. I suspect that this is frankly because of public sentiment regarding the agreement that they made.
Recommendation.
I'm going to continue to make that mistake. Your Honor, I just want to touch on a few things that I've just reviewed.
Yes, yes.
Your Honor, the importance of the cooperation. Ms. Sands did communicate to me that she interviewed the foreman of the jury, who said 3 things to them, 3 things that Ms. Sands relayed to me, that they believed Juliana Perez Magalhaes, that her testimony was integral. That was the word that Ms. Sands used. In other words, central to their decision to convict Brendan Banfield. And third, that they didn't believe Brendan Banfield. Your Honor, that is important for the court to consider because, again, up until her testimony, which was presented first in the Commonwealth series of witnesses, the Commonwealth had only a theory. The Commonwealth had circumstantial evidence, forensic evidence, electronic forensic evidence, digital forensic evidence, and others. But it was Juliana who ultimately told the story firsthand of what occurred. Because that decision was integral in the jury's decision, I think it could be said, and of course the court presided over the entire trial. You can determine her credibility yourself, but the jury certainly found it integral to their decision. And for that reason, the Commonwealth's recommendation, the joint recommendation, should be given heavy consideration by the court in this case. Your Honor, I briefly want to just touch on the delay in cooperating. It was evident to the defense that from Juliana's first date of arrest that they wanted her cooperation desperately. Her cooperation didn't come quickly. And our position is that at that time, she was still under the grip of Brendan Banfield, and the plan that he had convinced her would work. She still believed that there wouldn't be sufficient evidence for a conviction, and she was relying on Brendan's plan to get her through her arrest and prosecution. As she languished in jail, discovery dripped in. We really didn't receive significant discovery until after the preliminary hearing in this case. And even leading up to the trial date, we still hadn't received much of the digital forensic evidence that was made central to Brendan Banfield's case. Your Honor, the tipping point was perhaps the arrest of Brendan Banfield. That broke his grip on Juliana. The communications between Brendan and Juliana ceased. There were no further assurances that things would be okay for her, that they would have a life together afterwards. She was left alone, truly alone. No communications from his mother or family or other people, and no ability for her to actually contact her own family. She was left alone upon Brendan's arrest, and that was a huge factor in her coming forward. Your Honor, when she did come forward, we moved rapidly. We had a lengthy debrief followed by a plea within a day or two of that debrief. The next several months resulted in continued debriefings. We were available at every request of the Commonwealth. She continued to be candid and open with her statements, and I haven't heard any issues with her reluctance to answer questions in those debrief sessions. Your Honor, if she hadn't testified, there's a good chance that Brendan wouldn't have been convicted. First, the Commonwealth believed her. Secondly, Brendan chose to testify himself. I doubt he would have done that without her testimony. He chose to directly challenge her statement of offense, of her account of what occurred, and he was caught in his own lies. Beginning with shortly after cross-examination, the question of whether he loved her or not, and him saying, well, I didn't really love her. There were certain things that were in the way. And finally ending with his testimony about an important meeting that he was going to. Upon reviewing that testimony, his boss came forward and testified the next day that there was no meeting. Brendan's lies ultimately resulted in his conviction, but he might not have testified if Juliana hadn't been testified. Your Honor, I appreciate the comments of Joseph Ryan's family, and I've read the letters that were filed by Christine's family, and there's no words I can offer to console them at this time. But it is critical that there was no trial in this case, that there is finality for the families, and that there was cooperation by Juliana that resulted in Brendan's conviction. Your Honor, the last thing I want to comment on is the agreement in this case, the recommendation.
Thank you.
I had hoped, the language of the plea agreement says that the Commonwealth recommends. It doesn't say they have to get up and advocate or pound their fist and argue to what extent the cooperation was important. But the court can weigh that yourself. It was critical. Her cooperation and testimony was critical to the outcome of Brendan Banfield's case. This was an agreement for a recommendation that was made with full knowledge of what the facts were of the case and what public sentiment might be regarding the agreement for Juliana in this case. The agreement was made anyway.
Recommendation.
Thank you. The recommendation was made with the input of all the victims, of the police department, and all the important people as required by law. And there was no pushback at that time, Your Honor. I have a position in my sentencing memo of whether this is an agreement or a recommendation under A1A or C. I'll maintain that argument, Your Honor. I ask that the court follow the joint recommendation of the parties and impose an active sentence of no more than time served in this case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right, Ms. Perez.
Okay, we're going to get a break. Up next, the au pair speaks. She will address the judge before the judge hands down her sentence. Stay with us. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins. Good to have you on this Friday. We're heading back to Virginia now. More of the sentencing hearing for Juliana Magalhães, the Brazilian au pair who had an affair with her boss, Brendan Banfield. She is set to be sentenced for her role in the gruesome killings of Brendan's wife, Christine, and Joseph Ryan back in 2023. Let's go back into the courtroom now. It is time for the judge to hear from the au pair.
Ms. Perez-Maglise, if you could stand up, please. If you could stand up, Ms. Perez-Maglise. Is there anything you wish to say at this time before sentence is imposed?
Yeah, I would like to read a statement. I have caused you all pain. They cannot be measured and forever changed so many lives. I pray for forgiveness from the Benson family and from Joseph Ryan's family and from Valerie. I will never forgive myself for the pain caused. I hope that my cooperation in this case somehow begin to help, repair the damage caused. There is nothing I could possibly do to make it up to you, to your loss. Sorry. There are so many regrets, but this is my biggest. That's it. That's a tragedy I have been carrying with me, and I will always do. It's something I have nightmares with. A tragedy I know I can never take back the devastation of what I have done. I know that my remorse cannot bring you peace. I hope you might someday understand that I truly did not believe that his plan would have actually happened. I have grown so much over the past 3 years. I look back at my younger self at 22 years old, falling head over heels for someone 15 years older. They only seen his good side and clinging to someone that showed me love. I lost myself in a relationship, leaving my morals and values behind, and putting even my loved ones through this. My time in jail has been a time of reflection for me to better myself in more ways than I realized I needed. I had to find myself again. That's when I truly found God, when I had lost the desire to live, when I wanted to die. The guilt and feelings that I didn't deserve to live and that I was a monster were overwhelming. In God, I found the forgiveness and mercy, and I am restored. Jail is not a place you can bear to let yourself drown in those feelings. I wanted to disconnect from my pain and the guilt and get into survival mode to stay mentally sane, because inevitably, with the memories come pain. Yet, I know I will live with this for the rest of my life. God and I only know the shame and guilt and sorrow I carry for all I have caused. Sorry for Joe's family and Christine's family. Sorry for Valerie, an innocent little girl who has so much love that will grow without her mother and our father. This I have burden to carry, knowing I could have prevented it at all from happening. I understand that I am to blame, and I'm truly sorry for the pain it caused. I hope someday I can be forgiven, as I hope to be able to forgive myself. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, in this matter, the court does find that the manslaughter charge was a large benefit of your bargain for testifying, which was a huge bargain in a plea deal. You could have been facing life plus 3 years, and now the maximum I can sentence you to today is 10 years. That's clearly a trade for your cooperation with the Commonwealth and what the Commonwealth offered. And you accepted that along with the Commonwealth's recommendation for time served, which is not an agreement, and as you know, not binding on the court, as we discussed at length at your plea. The reduction of the charge is a mitigation. I have watched your interviews and I watched you testify, and I just cannot find any further mitigation factors for your case. You may not have come up with a plan, agreed, and an older man may have groomed you to a point, but I want to list for the record the facts that I cannot equate with accepting a time-served recommendation. These are aggravating factors either not fully captured or not reflected in the sentencing guidelines. Number one, until today, you have shown no empathy for the victim in this case. Number two, you were more involved with the plan than you testified to. First off, there were numerous postings on social media platforms and text platforms looking for a target, texting and speaking directly with Joseph Ryan, encouraging him to bring the knife, and ultimately through the phone conversation, getting his consent, knowing all along you were bringing him to his death. Lying to Christine and setting up the plan for the zoo, using her devices and hiding her phone, using a child as a pawn in your plan, waiting outside for Joseph to show up, calling Mr. Banfield to bring him to the scene, and at any point for at least the month prior or that day, you could have stopped this. The plan did not work without your full involvement. Number three, having the loaded firearm in your pocket. Number four, bringing a child into the basement knowing two people were about to be murdered, to include the child's mother. Number five, hearing Christine ask you to call 911, which you did and then immediately hung up. Number six, seeing Joseph Ryan, who was shot in the head at that time, still moving and walking up to him as he lay moaning on the floor and shooting him point blank in the heart. Number seven, watching as Mr. Banfield stabbed Christine over and over again. Number eight, waiting 15 minutes before recalling 911. Number nine, telling a fabricated story for over a year and a half, a story that depicted Joseph Ryan wrongly as a rapist and a murderer, an innocent man. And number 10, telling the child it was okay to call you mommy hours after the murder. Your actions were deliberate, self-serving, and demonstrated a profound disregard for human life. So let's get it straight. You do not deserve anything other than incarceration and a life of reflection on what you have done to the victim and this family. May it weigh heavily on your soul. So today I'm sentencing you on a manslaughter charge because that's what's before me. And the facts of this case demonstrate an intentional and calculated level of violence that is the most serious manslaughter scenario that this court has ever seen. Therefore, I do sentence you to 10 years in the penitentiary, as required by Virginia Code 19.2-295.2. After you've completed your 10-year sentence, I will order an additional 2 years suspended, and you will be placed on probation pursuant to Virginia Code 19.2-303. Since you have been convicted of a felony in Virginia, a sample of your DNA will also be drawn for the state police database. Are there any questions, Mr. Campbell? All right, anything further in this case? No, ma'am. Okay, all right, you're remanded to the custody of the sheriff.
Okay, there she goes. The au pair walked into the courtroom today hoping that the agreement that she had signed up for with the Commonwealth would hold. But Judge Azcarate, Penny, you remember her from Johnny? She is the best. 10 years, the full weight of what she could do. And she said, what should happen here? You should be in prison the rest of your life for what you did, and then listed off point by point why what she did was despicable. Joseph Tully watching along with us in San Francisco. Your thoughts on the judge saying, forget your agreement, I'm in charge.
Yes, I am used to kind of reading cues with judges, and when I saw her continually correct the defense attorney, this wasn't an agreement, it was a recommendation. Well, it was an agreement. The prosecution offered an agreement, a plea agreement, to voluntary or involuntary manslaughter for a lid of 10 years. And, you know, it was an agreement. They recommended credit for time served. However, the judge kept saying, no, this is a recommendation. The second half that she wasn't saying is, so I don't need to follow it. It's only a recommendation, not an agreement. So I knew the judge was going to come out and probably do the 10 years just because this is such a heinous crime.
And it is a sweetheart deal. The Commonwealth attorneys, after the conviction of Joseph Banfield, stepped up to the microphone and said, this was not a sweetheart deal. We really needed her, basically. But boy, the judge really did list off the despicable things that she participated in. It wasn't just Brendan Banfield. It was her, lockstep with him, with the luring of Joseph Ryan, and then knowing that they're going to be killing this little girl's mother. And she took part in it. I thought the way that the judge handled it was appropriate in that, yes, she even had a little emotion in her voice at times and was backing up her ruling with facts.
That was a perfect demeanor, perfect legal reasoning by a judge. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see a professional, this is a very tough situation. The courts are very emotional. This is a very emotional situation, a lot of facts. This judge went straight to just the facts, was analytical, but did the right thing. So, yeah, I was very impressed with the judge's ruling. And I think you're also right in terms of this was by any liability. She was a co-conspirator. She was an aider and abetter. She was a direct participant. This would have been life in prison by any other means had this deal not gone through. So the judge basically said, look, you got the benefit of your bargain by this deal, by limiting your liability to 10 years. And I'm giving you that. I'm giving you no more, though. I'm going to max you out under what I can possibly do.
Yep. And she's done 3.5 in jail. She'll get time served and probably won't serve the full 10. And then you heard the judge say she's going to have 2 years of probation. Now, whether or not, I don't know if you know this, would she be deported, sent back to Brazil? Because if she's on probation, she might have some restrictions to travel and behavior.
Mm-hmm. Those are always really complicated, whether somebody can even move from one state to another when they're on probation or parole. I don't know if you know, how her immigration situation will come in, her naturalization status, if that will affect anything. But I think you're right. She won't do the full 10 years. She'll have some kind of credit for time served. Well, she'll get credit for her time served that she's done, but also usually prison sentences aren't the full time. So we'll see if America will want to keep her to give her the full punishment, or if it will be after she's out of custody, if she'll be deported.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, a lot of unanswered questions there, Joseph. Thank you. We're going to get a break. You notice the clock has stopped in New Jersey for Caneiro. Not a verdict, though. It is lunch. Lunchtime for the jury there. When we come back, we are waiting for a potential press conference in the au pair, but that hasn't materialized. We may go there. If we don't, we're going here to Michigan, where a husband is accused of murdering his wife. Stay with us.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee.
Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property, sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Busy Friday here. Caneiro jury is on lunch, 4 hours and 30 minutes into their deliberations. We just had the au pair sentencing, and now we're heading to Michigan for day 2 of the murder trial for Dale Warner. He is accused of killing his wife Dee back in 2021. Her remains were found inside a welded shut tank on property belonging to Dale. He faces life if convicted. Let's go into the courtroom. On the stand now for the state is Dee's son, Zachary Bach.
Zachary Christopher Bach, Z-A-C-K-E-R-Y, C-H-R-I-S-T-O-P-H-E-R, B-O-C-K.
Okay, thank you. How did you know Dee Warner?
Dee was my mom.
Okay. How close were you with your mom?
Extremely close. We talked, saw each other just about every day.
All right. Explain that to me. How did you talk to her?
We'd talk through text message, phone call, Snapchat, or we'd see each other in person.
All right. How often did you see each other in person?
I worked for her, so I worked there at the farm. So I typically saw her Monday through Friday.
All right.
Sometimes on the weekends as well.
All right. Did you know Dale?
I did.
All right. And that would be your stepdad?
Yes.
All right. What was your relationship with him like?
My mom's partner.
Okay. And you said you worked at the business. Which business did you work for?
All three.
All right. So
I was paid out of one, but I did work for all three companies.
Which business were you paid out of?
DDW Investments.
All right. Tell me about, you said there's 3 businesses. What are the businesses?
There's DDW Investments, which was the trucking company. Wareg Farms, which was the farm operating company that farmed ground, corn, beans, that type of thing. And then there's Wareg Farm Services, which was the chemical fertilizer company that was selling products to third parties, other farmers.
Okay. And the Wareg Farms, that farmed land?
Yes.
All right. And how many acres of land, approximately?
Roughly 3,000.
All right. Are these, the land that's being farmed, is this owned or leased?
Both.
Okay. And what about Wareg Services? What did they do?
Wareg Farm Services was the chemical fertilizer company, so that was buying the chemicals or fertilizer from the supplier, turning around and selling them to other farmers and using for themselves as well.
Okay. And DDW Trucking, where did they do business?
As far as like location?
Trucking, yep. Where did they truck?
All over the place. There was trucks that went in and out of Canada. There was trucks in Illinois, kind of all over, I'd say, a couple of states surrounding the state of Michigan.
All right.
It wasn't like they were going to California or anything like that, but.
Okay. How many employees between the businesses were working on the farm?
For just the farm or the?
For all the businesses?
All the businesses together.
Correct. So let me clarify. Good question. The farm, so you said you worked for your mom every day. Was that business located on the farm?
Yeah, all 3 businesses operated out of the same office.
Okay. And so how many employees between all 3 companies were there?
Less than 20.
Okay. Tell me, in April of 2021, who the major trucking employees were.
Each name?
If you can remember the trucking employees that you dealt with on a regular basis.
There was Todd, Terry, Mark, Kelly. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the rest.
Okay. What about the farming business? Who were the employees for farms that you saw on a regular basis and you dealt with in April of 2021?
There was Ivan, Jim, Jaron, Stephanie. She worked in the office with me. And Dale.
Okay.
There was some random other people that might come in for helping with certain things, but.
Okay, when you say Ivan, is that Ivan?
Zachary Brock lost his mother and didn't like his stepfather, her partner. He called her. Dale, let's get a break. More after this. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins. Good to be with you on a Friday as we round out another busy week here at Court TV. We're in Michigan this afternoon. The hidden murder of Dee Warner trial. The defendant here, Dale Warner, is accused of killing his wife Dee back in April of 2021. It would be years before investigators would find Dee's body in this fertilizer tank, about 4 miles from the couple's home on property that Dale owned, part of their businesses. And they say Dale put her in there and sealed it shut, welded it shut. Let's go back into the courtroom now where we're watching testimony from Dee Warner's son, Zachary Bach.
You say Ivan, is that Ivan Boyd?
Yes.
And Jim, do you know his last name?
Hawkins.
Okay. And Jaron?
Warner.
Did you know a Jason Gravel?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't say that for sure.
Not somebody you would have interacted with every day?
I didn't really interact with a lot of the people that worked there. I mainly was in the office. I dealt with them, maybe communicated over the phone, but most of even the truckers were actually handled by Stephanie.
Okay. And Stephanie, did she work in the office with you?
She did.
All right. How long did Stephanie work there?
We both started there about the same time. I had worked there when I was in high school, but had left and was doing my own stuff. And then when my mom and Dale had fired Mark Weisberg, I came back. I want to say it was about 2017.
Okay. So you and Stephanie both started around 2017?
Yes.
All right.
Probably within about a month of each other.
Okay. Did your mom employ any housekeepers?
Several.
Okay. What about in 2021?
The one that I knew mostly was Maddie Wolf.
Okay. Did you know if your mom took in any foreign exchange students at any point in time?
She did. Her name was, and we called her Jade. How her actual name is pronounced, I don't know, but she was from Italy.
Okay. What year was that, if you recall?
Probably 2015, 16, somewhere around there.
Okay. So I believe you indicated you were with your mom just about every day. Do you know what her habit was with her phone? As far as keeping it with her, putting it, not having it?
Attached to her hand? Yes.
All right. Were there times that you attempted to call her?
Excuse me.
That's okay. Were there times you ever called or texted your mom that she didn't respond to you?
The only time that she's never responded to me was when she was killed.
Okay. What about her keys for her Cadillac? Do you know what she did with those?
They were typically in her pocket.
All right. And do you know if she kept that Cadillac locked?
Usually it was locked, yes.
Okay. And do you know what was kept inside the Cadillac?
So Mom carried her phone case was her, I'm going to say, day-to-day wallet. It had a little flap that opened up to protect the screen, and you could put like your driver's license, your credit card, and stuff like that kind of right inside of it. But she also had like a small purse. I think it's called a clutch.
Okay.
She had a bigger purse that was like an actual bag, but she very rarely, I think the only time she would typically use that really big purse was like a Black Friday sale when her, my sisters, my aunts, they would go shopping. Okay. But typically she only used her wallet that was attached to her phone and then that little clutch purse thing that was usually left in her car.
Okay. With you being around the day-to-day activities on the Warner property, on the farm there, did you observe your mom and Dale fighting?
Just about every day.
Okay. Do you know the basic topic of the arguments?
Typically the fights were related to money and something related to one of the businesses.
Okay. When was the last time that you talked to your mom? Whether in person, phone?
The Saturday before. So I think that's the 24th.
Okay. Where'd you see her at or talk to her? How'd you talk to her?
I had briefly seen her, I think it was Saturday morning at my sister Amber's. I had kind of just swung by and I think maybe had a cup of coffee, and my mom was coming to pick up Lena, and about the same time that Mom had gotten there was about the same time I was leaving, so I might have said hi. But throughout the rest of the day, I had talked with her. We were texting back and forth. She was having some issues with two of the truckers, and then we were also talking about a friend of ours, a friend of mine and a friend of hers had passed away.
Okay. And does your mom at any point in time tell you that she has any kind of plan for that night?
Yes, she was done with everything. She didn't want to do the trucking company anymore. She didn't want to be with Dale anymore. She wanted to sell everything and be done.
All right.
One point during the text conversation, she said, "I'll sign it all over to you and you can deal with it. I'm done."
Okay. And how long have you been as close as you were to your mom in 2021? How long were you guys that close?
We had always been really close. I had started working originally for the farm when I was still in high school in like 2009, I believe.
Okay.
And had kind of worked on and off. Whenever they needed somebody else, I was there.
Okay. Had you heard her say that she wanted to do those things before?
Leave Dale and sell everything? Yes.
Okay. So after she says, I'm going to have a conversation with Dale later, do you text her, call her, anything later that night?
We had continued to text most of the evening.
Okay.
She was telling me about the fight and what the employee had said to her.
All right. Approximately what is the last time that you get a text message from your mom, if you can recall?
7 or 8 o'clock.
At night, p.m.? All right. Some point on Sunday, do you come over to the farm?
Yes. My sister Raquel I don't remember if she had called me or texted me. I believe she had called me that morning and asked if I knew where Mom was. She said that both of her cars were at home and she couldn't find Mom anywhere.
Okay.
And asked if I knew where she was. And I said, no, I'll text her and then I'll come on over.
Okay.
So I got off the phone with her and tried to call Mom. It went straight to voicemail, and then I think I had sent her a couple of text messages and was just starting a conversation. I think the first one was something like, "How was your night?" or "How you doing today?" or something like that.
Okay.
But nothing ever went through.
All right. During the course of your mom's marriage to Dale, do you know if she would leave for a day or two?
Yeah.
All right. Where would she typically go?
Typically, she came to my house.
Okay.
She came to Amber's house, I know, a couple of times. She's gone to my Aunt Shelley and Uncle Greg's house a couple of times.
Okay. So it wouldn't be uncommon for her to show up at your house?
No.
Okay. How long would she typically stay?
Day, maybe 2.
And so then your sister Raquel calls you. What do you do after you talk to her?
So I think I went and took a shower and got in the car and went to my mom's house.
Okay. What did you do when you got to the house?
I first went down to the office. I remember seeing my mom's Hummer sitting there, which was a little weird because she had been driving the Cadillac mostly. And then I went into the office, kind of just ran through, I guess, all of the rooms that were there, looking to see if I could see Mom or anything, if Mom had been there. And then walked back out of the office, walked up towards where Terry, the truck driver that Mom was in the argument and fight with the night before, was supposed to come clean his truck out. So I went up to check to see if Terry had cleaned his semi-truck out.
Okay.
Climbed up the little ladder, opened the door to the truck. The truck was still full of belongings. Got back down, started to walk back up towards the house, and that's when Dale came up to me somewhere in the driveway and asked if I knew where Mom was, if I knew where she was going to be, anything. And I said no, and we both proceeded to walk back down to the office.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. So when you first get to the Munger property and go to the office, is there anybody on the property with you?
When I first walked through the office, there's people on the property, but nobody's like walking with me, no.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, was Dale there when you got there?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you know if he got there at any point after you arrived, or you're not?
I don't know.
Okay.
The first actual time that I saw Dale was when we met in that driveway, right after I had looked at the semi-truck.
Okay. And then you both walked down to the office together?
Correct.
What do you do when you get down to the office?
As soon as we walk in the office door, we take a right. I was going to go look at the server room, which is on the back, this back little hallway thing next to the bathroom. And Dale started to walk into the next door, which was his office. So as I took a left to go down the hallway towards the server room and the bathroom, Dale was standing in his doorway. And before I got to the server room, all I hear was, am I allowed to swear? And Dale's standing there holding my mom's wedding ring in his hand in the doorway.
Okay.
And so that.
Okay, Zach Brock on the stand. We've already heard from the daughter of Dee Warner, and now it's the son. He's very much entrenched in this business. Let's bring in our guest before we hit a break, civil rights trial attorney Joe Richardson. Joe, I don't know how read in you are in this case, but this witness, anything stand out to you in terms of what we're watching?
Well, you know, he goes with all the others in terms of the building blocks. It's very interesting. As we cut, we just got to the point where, for some reason, he's got her wedding ring in his hand. That's very interesting. There are going to be a lot of little nuggets like this that help to put this together in terms of suggesting very, very strongly that he knows what happened, and that not only does he have the motive, the opportunity, etc. This is just another one of those things. Mom, they're not hearing back from when they would normally expect to. She always those types of things that really serve to say everybody kind of knew at one time that there was a problem, and he's acting, you know, a little bit suspiciously, and that ring thing is just another piece of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The state has a mountain of evidence. The defense here really is, well, you don't know for sure that it was Dale. Someone put her in the fertilizer truck, and somebody welded it shut, and she sat there for years. That's not really being disputed, but where's the evidence that it was Dale? Of course, you know, they didn't like each other. They fought all the time. We're getting lots of that. How, from a prosecution standpoint, what do they have to watch out for? Because you could walk into a case like this with all of this evidence thinking this is going to be a cakewalk. What are the pitfalls in a case like this where you have the evidence, but you also, it is circumstantial?
Right. Since you have a circumstantial case, you really have to be very, very convincing. A jury can convict on circumstantial evidence, but it's not the best evidence, right? So they'll emphasize certain things, like there is a fingerprint, I believe, on the tank there, right? They'll say, okay, well, you know, they owned it. Of course there'd be a fingerprint. But once you start to put things together that really just lead to this inference that he's guilty of this, they've just got to make sure that they put those things together very, very well, that everyone that they put on is credible, and so they're people that they want to believe, and it's almost like through the evidence, the deceased is actually speaking from the grave, as it were, and now this guy's not only a guy that you don't want to believe, that's not likable, he is guilty. You got to take that step and make sure they get there.
Yeah, we'll see it all play out. Joe, stand by. Thank you. We're going to get a break. Notice the 2 clocks on the screen there. The Caneiro jury is still enjoying a New Jersey lunch. As soon as they're back at it, we'll start that clock back up again. They've been deliberating 4 hours, 30 minutes plus. And then the other one, the Gearhart case. This is the 14-year-old that was murdered, and the then 19-year-old on trial. They've just gotten the case there in Florida, so lots brewing here on a Friday. Don't go anywhere. Back after this.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing arguments with Vinnie Politan tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Let's head back to Michigan now. It's day 2 of the hidden murder of Dee Warner child. The 52-year-old went missing back in April of 2021. It would be years before investigators found her body in a fertilizer tank about 4 miles from her home. Prosecutors say her husband, Dale, strangled Dee to death, then hid her body. But he says, no, I didn't do this. Dee ran away. Dee didn't like me. We had a fight, and she ran away. I had nothing to do with her murder. Well, how'd you get into that tank on his property? The defense says, well, we don't know, and he didn't do it. Let's go back to the courtroom now. More testimony from Dee's son.
And so then from there, I walk back around over to my mom's desk where her computer is connected to the camera system. So instead of looking at it on my phone, I can look at it on the big screen. And I started to get on the cameras to see, well, if Dale's holding her wedding ring, she came into the office at some point, so maybe I can see her on the cameras and what time that might have been.
Okay. So did you start looking at the camera systems?
I did, and I stayed in the office trying to look on the camera system for a little while. I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but the whole time Dale stayed right here.
Was it the whole time, or was he in and out, or?
Whenever he was right next to me, he was right here.
Okay.
He would go walk over to his office. He walked in and out of the office building itself multiple times. He kept saying, oh, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to go over and do this. But then he never did. He'd come right back in.
Okay. And at this point in time, when you're looking at cameras and Dale's in and out, who else is in the office with you?
At some point, my sister, my aunt, and my brother, my sister Raquel, had all come into the office. At some point, I believe Raquel's boyfriend, Dustin, had actually also come in there, I believe.
Okay. And how long did you stay at the office looking at cameras?
I couldn't tell you an exact amount of time.
All right. What'd you do after you were done looking at the cameras?
So at the rest of that day, I had gone through and I went and drove to look at the other properties that they owned that had structures on them. So like there's a house around the corner that used to be rented to Stephanie that we were selling at the time, and I had it for sale. So I thought, well, she walked somewhere, her cars are here, maybe she walked and is staying in that house. So I drove up to that house, opened it up, nobody was inside. I drove over to the Cedar Point property in Onstead to see if maybe she was there somewhere hiding out. I went back to my own house. She had a code to be able to use the front door, figuring, well, maybe somebody picked her up and they went to breakfast and now she's back at my house hiding out. She wasn't there. I came back to the farm once again I think I just drove by or drove through, or maybe I talked to my sisters. But then I had proceeded to then go to Britain to the grain bin setup. See if there was any sign of her there. When I couldn't find her anywhere, when I was leaving Britain on my way back through in Tecumseh, I called a friend of ours, Officer Paul Wolf, for the Tecumseh Police Department.
Okay, and based on that conversation, what did you do next?
I told him what was happening, what I was feeling like, and he said, then you guys need to call the state police.
Okay.
So I got off the phone with him. I called my siblings. I said, hey, this is what Paul said. Can we meet at my house? And we're going to call someone.
All right. Now, prior to leaving the Munger farm, did you have a conversation with Dale, or were you part of a conversation with Dale about potentially calling the police earlier?
I think when we were all in the office and I was still looking at the computer, or at the camera stuff on the computer, that had been brought up a couple of times.
Okay, and do you know what his response to that was?
If we haven't heard from her in the next day or so, we'll give him a call.
Okay. All right, so you get off the phone with Officer Wolf and you make contact with police?
I made contact with my siblings first. My sister Raquel and my brother TJ and I all met up at my house, and we Googled the state police number. It sent us to a dispatch. The dispatch sent us to the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department said that they would send out a deputy, and I think it was, I can't remember his first name, but Deputy Hall.
Okay. And did you in fact give him a statement?
We did.
All right. And the following day, well, let me back up. Did you have any further conversations with Dale? when you were at the farm?
After we had called the...
Before you called the police, while you were there, and he was in and out of the office, did you have any further conversations with him on the Munger property?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. All right. So, when's the next time you come back to the Munger property?
The next morning.
Okay. What time?
I don't know the exact time. It would have been the morning, like starting a regular work day.
So Monday
probably
morning.
Somewhere around 9 a.m.
Okay. And what'd you do when you got there?
Usually the first thing that I would do in the mornings was always check the credit card, the company credit card, to both make sure that the truck drivers were able to keep operating and getting fuel and everything off of that card, but also to check to see if there had been any usage on my mom's cards.
Okay. And did you notice anything?
No.
At some point during that day, did you have contact with a detective?
At some point that day, the sheriff detective Greca had reached out to me, called me, and we met up. I had told him that I was planning on going to TLC, our bank, my mom and I's bank, and I was going to see if I could get anybody at TLC to tell me if there had been any activity on my mom's bank account.
Okay, and did you, in fact, meet with Detective Greca at
We did.
TLC?
We met at the Tecumseh branch.
All right. And did you learn if were these accounts that you shared with your mom?
No. Well, my mom and I had a shared account, but my mom had her own personal accounts as well, and then there was a business account there.
Okay.
I was trying to see if TLC would tell me anything about her personal account, not the joint account. The joint account I had access to.
Okay. And did you find anything?
They wouldn't tell us. They told us no, there wasn't any activity on the card or on her cards or her accounts.
Okay. And once you left the bank, what did you do after that?
Detective Greca and I drove separately, but we went back to the farm. He wanted to talk with Dale, so I took him to the farm. When we pulled into the back of the house and we're standing on the back deck. I went into the house to see if Dale was inside, and then I looked out back and you could see Dale in one of the pieces of tillage equipment working in the field. So I called him and said there was a detective here that wanted to talk to him, and Dale came up and spoke with him. When Dale got there, I left.
And you left at that point, okay.
Yes.
So I kind of forgot to ask you about this big piece. So at some point in time, you lived on the Warner farm at your mom's house?
Several times.
All right. And did you have a bedroom?
I did.
And did you have what was in the bedroom?
Bed, dresser, a safe.
All right. And what was
clothes.
What was the purpose of the safe? Was that just yours, or?
My mom had bought it for me with the intention of her using it.
Okay. So did you both share it, or how did that work?
Kind of. I put what I considered important documents in there, like my birth certificate and my passport that I had. I had put those in there, and Mom was putting cash and whatever other things that she wanted to save in there.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did anybody else have access to that safe?
Just my mom and I.
All right. Here, I'm going to approach the witness with People's Proposed Exhibit 23. So I showed you a photograph of a safe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that similar to the safe that you owned?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, let's slip in a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the cross-examination of this son. What a good witness, huh? Very clear, succinct, great memory. We'll get you back in, see how he does on cross right after this.
that.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're going to head back to Michigan. And by the way, we've got 2 verdicts potentially coming in today. It's a Friday. Happens a lot, but 2 deliberating juries, one in Florida and one in New Jersey. Caneiro in New Jersey, they're just finishing up their lunch. They'll be back at it momentarily. In Florida, just getting underway. Back to Michigan now. Day 2 of the murder trial for Dale Warner. Warner charged with the murder of his wife, Dee. She went missing from her Franklin Township home back in April of 2021. Warner said at the time that they had a huge argument, he said, and she left. Well, years later, they found her in this thing. And this is on Dale's property. It's a sealed container. Someone had put her in there and then first cut a hole in it, and then they welded it shut. One of the people on that farm, he worked there, and he was also Dee's son. He's on the witness stand now. We've watched his direct. Now time for cross.
Good morning, Mr. Bach. I just have a few questions for you today. So you said you had lived at the Munger property with Mr. and Ms. Warner, your mom?
Yes.
About how long did that happen?
There were several times that I had, when I was in high school, I lived there. I had moved out, and then at some point, probably in, I think it was 2013, 2014, I had moved back in. And then again, probably 2017 to 2019, somewhere in there.
So for a number of years. You indicated that you saw fights between your mom and Mr. Warner, and I'm assuming like verbal fights or disagreements, things like that?
Yes.
Would your mom raise her voice at Mr. Warner?
They would raise the voice at each other all the time, yes.
So raised voices with the 2 of them verbally arguing, is that accurate?
Correct.
Was that for pretty much the entirety of the time that you had lived there, or was that a more recent thing?
Most of the time that I lived there, I can't actually remember a time that I didn't hear them fight. The fights definitely got more frequent later, but I think they always had kind of fought.
Okay, so from the start of the relationship, from what you remember, there were verbal arguments and disagreements?
Yes.
Now, when you lived at Munger, did you have, or even when you didn't live there, did you have a key, or was that door locked and you were able to come in?
I had a key, but the doors were never locked. I had a key when, after my mom and Dale had Lena, about every March, when Lena's birthday was, they would take Lena down to Florida, and they were usually gone for an extended period of time, and I was the one that would watch the house, so Mom had given me a key. It actually happened to be the same key for the office.
When they would go for an extended period of time, would they lock the house, or would it be open?
Sometimes they'd lock it. Sometimes they'd lock all the doors except for this one door.
And when you would go into the Munger house, just in general, so you're going over to see your mom, would you walk in, or would the door be locked?
I just walked in.
When you worked for the companies that you indicated, your job was in finance, is that accurate? So bookkeeping, paying bills, invoices, things like that?
Yes.
Now, did that include paying all the bills, or did you split that with, you referred to her as Stephanie, that's Stephanie Vocal, correct?
Correct.
Did you split that with Stephanie?
Typically, I paid most of the bills, but if I wasn't there and they needed to pay a bill, then Stephanie would pay it.
Did that include things like credit cards, OnStar, car payments, things like that, or was it strictly what we would consider business, so trucking, grain, that kind of stuff?
Both. So we would pay on the credit cards. Mom and Dale had their own personal bank accounts, and personal checks. So those ones that I would say were handwritten checks from their personal accounts, they would pay those themselves. But if it was pertaining to anything with the businesses, then typically we paid it. A lot of their personal expenses were also paid for with business credit cards. So like the OnStar, for instance, I believe was paid for with one of the credit cards.
The business credit cards?
Yes.
And then is this fair to say that Your mom essentially would handle a lot of the office staff work, and Mr. Warner would handle things that were going on outside of the office, so farming, the chemical company, things like that.
Correct. My mom would handle a lot of the customer stuff for the chemical fertilizer side of things, but Dale did as well.
So your mom would be...
But as far as like the actual like farming day to day, getting in a tractor, that was all Dale. Working with those employees, that was typically all Dale.
That's what I was just going to ask. Yes. So if a customer came in or called, that might be your mom. But if it was, you know, plowing a field or planting, that would be Mr. Warner. Is that accurate?
Correct. My mom did. I mean, there was many times growing up that my mom was in a combine or in a piece of equipment driving and doing field work type things, but towards the end there, no. So that was all Dale.
She knew how to do it, but she
knew how, but that was not where she wanted to be.
And she also, did she grow up on a farm to your knowledge? And was with cattle too? Is that something that your mom was interested in?
Yep, she was very involved in the 4-H kids, and we had cows growing up, I think, my whole life.
You had talked about your mom would keep her purse in the car. Is it fair to say your mom would have also cash stuffed in the car as well?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that your mom had money stuffed everywhere?
Yes.
Okay, 'cause that based on prior testimony, you had indicated that. So she'd have it like kind of squirreled away in pockets in the car and clutch and purse and all those sorts of things. Yes. And you indicated that it was not surprising to you when your mom would say, or when she did say she wanted to divorce Mr. Warner or leave Mr. Warner, leave the businesses, things like that, because she had said those things before.
Yes.
And had that been going on for a while?
It had become significantly worse the last couple of years. I would say somewhere between 2015 until 2021. It had gotten.
All right, we'll get a break, but first, Joe Richardson, the sister, his sister, this witness's sister, also took the stand yesterday, and this theme on cross-examination is coming back. They're trying to establish that, okay, she would fly off the handle and say, I'm leaving, and this happened all the time. What's the significance of that? What are they trying to plant into the jury?
Right, that there was nothing unusual going on that would mean it'd be quite a jump for him to be killing her after they've been having arguments and talking about divorce for years and years and years. Why is he suddenly going to kill her now? That's not the reason, because there's a suggestion that this could be the motivation, right? She really wanted to leave, et cetera, et cetera. Well, she's always wanted to leave. They've gone back and forth. One of the things she didn't necessarily try to bring out on cross was that they were yelling and screaming at each other, but it wasn't necessarily physical. So it's almost like this suggestion of nothing to see here, or at least not enough for you to get beyond reasonable doubt in a largely circumstantial case. They were having problems like couples have problems.
Other defense argument that was presented in openings is that there's a fingerprint on the tank that has not been identified. There are other prints and other things, but there's one print that wasn't identified. How important is, not important, how significant could it be to a juror or juror that they're like, hey, that could be someone else who sealed her in there because there's that fingerprint. Jurors want that conclusion, right? They want to know who it was, and a mystery fingerprint you can go a long way with.
Yeah, maybe so, but you need something to connect it to, right? You need other things that are mystery. You need other things that you don't know. And if he looks like 99% that he's the guy, the fact that there's a fingerprint that they didn't identify at a place where you have probably dozens of people, if not more, working because it's so big, several pieces of property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's not going to carry the day unless, for some reason, they're inclined to find him not guilty anyway. Like this is a last straw on top of everything else. If that's the only thing by itself, and all it suggests is that cases aren't perfect, because you're trying to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt. If all of the other surrounding things recommend taking us beyond a reasonable doubt, the fact that there's one unidentified fingerprint doesn't mean that you don't get to reasonable doubt.
Yeah, especially when you think of the alternative. All right, well, some mystery dude just picked your farm to pick your wife to throw her into a fertilizer and then weld it shut. It's a bit of a stretch. Joe, thank you. Let's get a break. When we come back, we'll head back to Michigan. You can see the folks in New Jersey are back at it. They had their lunch, and they are deliberating the fate of Paul Caneiro, and then the Gearhart jury. They've almost an hour of deliberations in Florida. Lots cooking here on a Friday. Don't go anywhere. Back after this.
A deadly school shooting.
I just started hearing gunshots.
Now, the father of the alleged shooter is on trial.
Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon.
The Gave My Son a Gun murder trial. Today on Court TV.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Tonight at 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
Before we head to Michigan, we want to head to New Jersey. The jury has a question in the Caneiro case. Let's see what it is.
A back on the record with State of New Jersey versus Paul Caneiro. It's indictment 19-020283. The attorneys are here. Mr. Caneiro is here. Just before the lunch hour, 2 questions were provided to the court. Now it's been marked as CJ number 4. Is there a count 10? The answer to that is no. There is not a count 10 for you to consider. We did not mess up the verdict sheet. There's no count 10. The second question is marked as CJ number 5. Indicates, can we see exhibit S313? S313 is the knife. So this is what we're going to do for you. We have some brown paper that we are going to put into the jury room. The sheriff's officer is going to do that. He's also going to bring in a bunch of nitrile gloves for you to use if you want to use that. And then also the box that has the knife inside that. We put the paper out because you saw what the knife looked like, to make sure that you had the opportunity to take a look at the knife. You have plenty of gloves. If you need anything else, all you have to do is let us know, okay? The last thing I'll say is I saw as you guys were walking out that some may be a little cold. Are you guys okay? Are you cold? Anyone? You guys all right? All right, maybe I just read that wrong. It's a little cold?
She wants.
What was that, like, kind of like nod over there? Why don't you gotta take care of him. You just give him one of these. All right, so we'll go back. Just, well, you know what, why don't you hang out for 1 second? The sheriff's officer, if you want to take that, put that in there, please.
All right, Judge Lemieux there is going to give the knife back. The jury will have the knife back there. And they had a question about count 10. Is there one? No, there's not. Are they through all the way through count 9? We'll find out. Anyway, 5 hours they've been at it. It's after lunch on a Friday. Buckle up, could be coming soon. Let's go back to Michigan now. Dale Warner on trial, accused of killing his wife Dee back in 2021. Her remains were found in a welded shut tank on Dale's property. He says he didn't do it. Let's go back in and listen to more testimony from Dee Warner's son.
And correct me if I'm wrong, would she say it on one day and then 2 days later she would have a different plan? Or
I think the plan was always there, but I think there was always something in her trying to make it work. I know there was always a big fear of...
I'm going to stop you right there, though, only because that goes far afield of my question.
Oh,
so,
sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. So, would the plan change? And if you don't know, it's okay to say no.
I couldn't answer that, no.
Okay. So let me ask you this. If she would say, for instance, on a Monday that she would want to leave, it sounds like for years she would say that, but she wouldn't leave, except for short periods of time. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you indicated that your mom would leave the house for a day or two, and that was a regular occurrence.
Define regular.
Sure. I guess so. It wasn't surprising to you when she would show up at your house and want to stay there for a day or two?
Well, I mean, it was always a surprise, but I mean, it was one of those things that when it happened, I wasn't like, oh, what are you doing here? It was, oh, okay, hi.
Come on in.
Continue about the day.
Okay. And I guess when I say regular occurrence, I should ask you, in a year's time, how many times do you think she did that?
In a year's time, 10.
And is that pretty much on average, you think?
There would be, I mean, there was times that it was more, there was times that it was less.
Did your mom, you talked about an issue that she had been having with employee, is that accurate?
Yes.
Was that common or uncommon for your mom to have that kind of an issue with a staff member?
To the extent of what this fight was uncommon. She definitely would get into it with the employees about certain things sometimes, but nothing like what this one was. This one was very different.
What about, so she had conflict with Mr. Warner, she had conflict with staff. Again, the last one was more significant. What about other family members? Any conflicts there? Or?
I mean, she'd get into fights with, I think, just about anybody. Mom stood up for what she believed in. And if your opinion was different than hers, then sometimes that wasn't gonna, she was gonna have her opinion and you were gonna hear it.
She'd let you know, it sounds like?
She'd let you know.
Okay. in a raised voice, it sounds a little bit?
It could be.
Now, on April 25th, 2021, you indicated that when you arrived, the Hummer you said was in front of the office.
Correct.
Did you use your key to enter the office?
I can't remember if I used my key or if the office was open.
Then, correct me if I'm wrong. So, Ms. Saylor, can you put up Exhibit A? And then can you call out or point to where the office is? So, see, it looks like there's like almost like a barn, which is, and then the two doors. Is that where the office is?
Correct. So the right there in the middle of that stretch of barn is the main office door. The door all the way to the right would be going into Todd's office. So I entered through that middle door.
And you don't recall if that door was unlocked or locked?
I can't. I had a key. I could have used my key, but to tell you right now, if I used it, I couldn't tell you.
And I know we're going back almost 5 years. So then you said you went to outside of Terry Nayrink's truck?
Correct.
And you ultimately went inside just to see if his belongings were there. Where was that truck parked?
So that the behind the house, the barn that's directly behind the house there. There's.
I don't want to interrupt, but for a minute, is that the fertilizer barn?
That would be the dry fertilizer barn.
Okay,
yes.
the dry fertilizer barn. Can you zoom in on that, Ms. Saylor?
So to the left of that barn there, you can see a semi-trailer, just the trailer. His truck was essentially parked right there.
And then that's where you went and...
Need a break. Direct your attention to your screen. A verdict is in less than an hour in the Gearhart case. We'll get a break, see what the jury decided.
credit. Go to deal-.com right now for huge savings
and free shipping from our U.S. warehouses.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We have breaking news for you. Coming into our newsroom, a jury has reached a verdict in the fatal rejection murder trial of Waymore Gearhart. Now, he's accused of killing 14-year-old Demaya Appling after she allegedly refused his sexual advances. Prosecutors say the then 19-year-old lured Appling over to his house under the guise that her friend Keith Anderson would be there. Now, this jury heard from Keith Anderson during the trial. While the defense doesn't deny Gearhart's involvement, they say that he's not the killer and that he merely helped bury the girl after the fact. Now, while we wait for that verdict to come in, and we do have our eyes on that courtroom, and I just want to remind you, look at the clock. It's only 55 minutes this jury has had the case. And again, there was a lot of evidence against Gearhart. He chose not to take the stand in his own defense. We're looking at the seal there in that courtroom in Florida. We're going to take you there as soon as there's movement in the courtroom and the jury is ready to deliver their verdict. In the meantime, let me bring in our guest. Joining us this hour, trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, great to see you. As always, I want to get your thoughts. As I said, this might have set a record. I think at one point in my career, there was a 35-minute verdict, but 55 minutes, not a good sign for the defense.
Well, this is my territory, Florida, for sure. And I agree with you, Michael. 55 minutes, that is very, very short. That doesn't give them much time. What they walked in, sat down, said their brief thoughts, and apparently made a decision. So, I mean, let's do a prediction, you and me. I think we've got a conviction.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say there was a tremendous amount of evidence against him. One of the things that the defense tried to do, Alexis, which I think they were walking a very fine line and perhaps even crossed it at times, was kind of really highlighting the victim in this case, the lifestyle she was leading. She was in a high-risk category. She was on drugs. She was involved in things like selling pictures of herself nude to men. I guess a boyfriend that she was running around with might have had some trouble with the law, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously that didn't go over well with the jury.
We have a 14-year-old child. This is a child who obviously society and the world did not do right by. This is horrific what was happening to her to start with, and to try to re-victimize or make her actually into a horrible person before a jury isn't generally going to sit well with them.
Now, the defendant, there was some question as to whether he would take the stand. We also heard from other people, some neighbors, who talked about the fact that perhaps he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, and also that maybe there were some things wrong with him. He even told police that he was bipolar. I was surprised maybe the defense didn't sort of go in that direction. They probably explored it, decided not to go in the sort of a mental health defense direction. Didn't surprise me that he didn't take the stand. What about you?
Well, one thing is he was smart enough to listen to his attorneys, obviously, which a lot of times that we have defendants that we don't see that. I think it was a good idea that he didn't take the stand. I do not think it would help him. And the other thing is the fact that they were trying to allude to the fact that, he was one sandwich short of a picnic or something of that. Not everybody that is in prison is a
received a knock at the door. This is going to be marked as CJ number 6, and it indicated that we have reached a verdict. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our alternates in. We'll bring the family in. You know what? This is what I want to do. I want to bring everyone in because I want to be able to talk to them first about, I don't want to hear any emotions during the course of the verdict being read before I bring the alternates in. So if the Sheriff's Department, if you don't mind, as soon as you're ready, if you can allow people in, and then we'll go from there. All right? So I'll wait for you. Whenever you're ready, you can do that. Yep, you can bring everyone in. Yeah, I think it's, is that what I said? Yes. Yeah.
Folks, just double check your cell phones, please. Make sure they're on silent or off completely, please.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the jury has indicated that they have reached a verdict. In saying that, I just wanted to remind everyone that while reading the verdict, I'm going to ask, no matter what the verdict may be, I'm going to ask for everyone, you need to keep your emotions in check to the best as you possibly can. Obviously, everyone in this room understands the emotion behind this case on both sides of the aisle. We respect that. However, for purposes of the courtroom and trying to get through the verdict, I'm asking you to do your best to control that. And then once the verdict is done being read, you'll have the opportunity outside the courtroom to be able to do whatever you feel, and I respect that also. So can everyone follow that? We good?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you all. I very much appreciate it. And again, I understand. With that being said, I'm going to ask for the alternates to be brought. And just let me know.
All rise. Court is back in session.
Okay, we can have the trial now. Okay, everyone can be seated. Thank you. Mr. Foreman, I received a note at 1:54 p.m. It indicated that we have reached a verdict. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that includes all counts?
All counts.
Okay. All right, so we've marked that as CJ-6, the communication between the court and the jury. So I'm going to go through each one of the questions with you one by one. And you'll just answer the question after I read it, okay? All right. If you don't mind, can you stand for me? Unless you're uncomfortable. Do you have your verdict sheet?
No.
Okay, do you want to get that?
Yes.
All right, thanks. As long as he has his, you guys don't all need yours. Okay, sir, we'll start from the top. All right. How do you find as to count one of the indictment charging the defendant, Paul Caneiro, with the murder of Keith Caneiro?
Guilty.
Right. Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the homicidal act by his own conduct, meaning the defendant actively and directly participated in the homicidal act?
Yes.
Okay. Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder in expectation of the receipt of anything of pecuniary value?
Yes.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder for the purpose of escaping detection, apprehension, trial, punishment, or confinement from another offense or offenses committed by him, the defendant?
Yes.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder while he was engaged in the commission of or an attempt to commit the crimes of murder?
Yes.
Okay. Count 2. How do you find as to count 2 of the indictment charging the defendant, Paul Caneiro, with the murder of Jennifer Caneiro?
Guilty.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the homicidal act by his own conduct, meaning the defendant actively and directly participated in the homicidal act?
Yes.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder in expectation of the receipt of anything of pecuniary value?
No.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder for the purpose of escaping detection, apprehension, trial, punishment, or confinement for another offense or offenses committed by him, the defendant?
Yes.
Did the defendant, Paul Caneiro, commit the murder while he was engaged in the commission of or an attempt to commit the crimes of murder?
Yes.
3. How do you find as to count 3 of the indictment charging the defendant, Paul Caneiro, with the murder of Jesse Caneiro?
Guilty.
Did defendant Paul Caneiro commit the homicidal act by his own conduct, meaning that defendant actively or directly participated in the homicidal act?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder in expectation of the receipt of anything of pecuniary value?
No.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder for the purpose of escaping detection, apprehension, trial, punishment, or confinement for another offense or offenses committed by him, the defendant?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder while he was engaged in the commission of or an attempt to commit the crime or crimes of murder?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder while Jesse Caneiro was less than 14 years old?
Yes.
Count 4. How do you find as to count 4 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with the murder of Sophia Caneiro?
Guilty.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the homicidal act by his own conduct, meaning the defendant actively and directly participated in the homicidal act?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder in expectation of the receipt of anything of pecuniary value?
No.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder for the purpose of escaping detection, apprehension, trial, punishment, or confinement for another offense or offenses committed by him, the defendant?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder while he was engaged in the commission of or an attempt to commit the crime or crimes of murder?
Yes.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro commit the murder while Sophia Caneiro was less than 14 years old?
Yes.
Count 5. How do you find as to count 5 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with the felony murder of Jesse Caneiro?
Guilty.
How do you find as to count 6 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with the felony murder of Sophia Caneiro?
Guilty.
How do you find as to count 7 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with aggravated arson as to the structure of 15 Willowbrook Road, Colts Neck?
Guilty.
How do you find as to count 8 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with aggravated arson as to the structure of 27 Tilton Drive, Ocean Township?
Guilty.
Count 9. How do you find as to count 9 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with possession of a firearm for unlawful purpose?
Guilty.
Count 11. How do you find as to count 11 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with possession of a knife for an unlawful purpose?
Guilty.
How do you find as to count 12 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with the unlawful possession of a knife?
Guilty.
How do you find as to count 13 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with theft?
Guilty.
Indicate the value of the pecuniary benefit the defendant received from the misapplication.
Check number 1.
Okay. So it's $75,000 or more.
Yes.
Okay. How do you find as to count 14 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with misapplication of entrusted property?
Guilty.
Did the defendant Paul Caneiro derive a pecuniary benefit from the misapplication?
Yes.
Indicate the value of the pecuniary benefit the defendant received from the misapplication.
1. $75,000 or more.
Okay, thank you. Count 15. How do you find as to count 15 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with hindering one's own apprehension or prosecution?
Guilty.
Count 16. How do you find as to count 16 of the indictment charging the defendant Paul Caneiro with hindering one's own apprehension or prosecution?
Guilty.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You can be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the foreman go through each one of the charges and indicated the verdict as to all of you. At this point in time, I'm going to ask the deliberating jurors. I'm just going to go by your seat number, that's it. And I'm just going to ask, do you agree with the entire verdict as was read by your foreman, juror number 1? Okay? Juror number 2.
Agreed.
Juror number 3.
Agreed.
Juror number 4.
Agreed.
Juror number 5.
Agreed.
Juror number 6.
Agreed.
Juror number 7.
Agreed.
Juror number 9.
Agreed.
Juror number 10.
Agreed.
Juror number 12.
Agreed.
Juror number 13.
Agreed.
And juror number 14.
Agreed.
Okay. Our jury has been polled. Is there any reason for the attorneys to approach the bench?
No, Judge.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor at this point in time. I'm just going to ask for you to go into the jury room for a minute. All of you, you can all go in. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking up. I apologize. Mr. Caneiro, at this point in time, you no longer are presumed to be innocent. You have been convicted by a jury of your peers under 3:21-4A. You will now be detained and committed to the custody of the Commissioner of MCCI pending sentence. Your sentence will be scheduled for May the 12th, 2026, which is a Tuesday, and that is at 8:30 a.m. I will also, as a part of this, just so that the record is clear, as it relates to any motion for a new trial under 3:20-2, that there are 10 days from today's date for a motion for a new trial, which would be February 23rd. If the defense decides to file a motion for a new trial, the defendant's brief, I want everyone to have it now, will be due on March 16th, 2026 by 4:30 p.m. The state's response would be due by April the 6th, 2026 by 4:30 p.m. And the hearing date would be scheduled for April 20th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. So again, if a motion is filed, those are the dates so that we do not have to come back for a briefing schedule. I'm giving it to you now so that we're all on the same page. At this point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to excuse the jury, and then I will excuse everyone from the back. All right, so I just ask everyone to stay put for a minute, but I wanted to at least get that finished and put on the record.
You can grab all your stuff?
Yes, you can grab everything. No. Back in here. Okay. Everybody can be seated. Sorry, there was just something I had to handle before I excused you. So first and foremost, obviously, let me thank you. I've tried to do that a few times during the course of this, but at this point in time, now I lose control of you, you lose control of me, which is probably good for you. You don't have to listen to me anymore. But I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for the time that you have put into this from the week of January the 5th. Some people on this jury were here on that first day. And have been here throughout the entire time. Our system of justice, if you remember what I said in the beginning, fails without people like yourselves for taking the time to sacrifice your time so that our system of justice can have jurors to come in and to render decisions on cases just like this. So the fact that you did that, and you did it, all of you did it with such professionalism, with dedication. I watched you each and every day. I told you before that you all paid attention. You very much were focused on the task at hand, and I commend all of you for what you've accomplished here, which is to render a decision as to this difficult case. That's number one. Number two, I said this to you before. I do my best to try to keep matters calm. And here with some humor here and there. There's no humor in any of this, and everyone knows that. And I think I've said that before, but I say it again now so that you understand. I only do it because I understand the impacts that it has, and I wanted to make sure that you understood, that I understood where you were coming from, and I tried to do that by keeping things calm. The third thing that I want to say is that at this point in time, I now lose control. And when I say that, as you leave here at the courthouse today, obviously you weren't allowed to know anything about what was going on in the real world as it related to this case for an extended period of time. I want to remind you, everything that happens in that jury room, that's the sanctity of that jury room. That should be left there. I can't force you to not say anything, but I have to make sure that you understand. If for some reason you decided to either to speak out to the media or speak out to anyone else, if you say something there that has an impact on what happened here, then I'm going to have to bring you back, and I'm going to have to question you as it relates to whatever that you may or may not have said. I don't say that to threaten you or in any way. I just need you to understand the truth that that would be something that I would need to do to make sure that that process, that whatever went on in there, only you control what happened in there, and that's it. So I suggest you not to do that. Obviously, you'll be talking to your family and friends, and you can do that at this point. That's no problem at all. But I just remind you of that issue that could come up if you decide to speak to the media. It's publicized, and then ultimately there may be a question that I may have to ask you about that. So other than that, again, you'll now be leaving. I want to say thank you. I appreciate all of your time. If I'm the lucky one, maybe I'll see you in 3 years when I send you a new notice to come back. Otherwise, I really appreciate all your time and effort. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Okay, what we'll do is, everyone can be seated. What we'll do is, at this point in time, Anna will go in. She will make sure that take out any notes or anything that may possibly in there so that they are immediately destroyed. However, if both sides can just wait to get your evidence so you can take that back with you, I would appreciate it. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. We will see everyone back here on, as of right now, May 12th, unless there's a motion that's filed. Thank you all.